Hi everybody, my name is Jan Dufour and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. If you're viewing this on YouTube, you can find all of the cutting details and links at stampmesilly.com. If you need to reach me, my email is jandufour@yahoo.com. If you'd like to purchase any of the products I'm showing you today and you don't have a regular demonstrator, first of all, you can email me and request a catalog. I'd be happy to send you a free copy. Or you can shop directly at my store at jandufour.stampinup.net. I have been working really hard to work outside my comfort zone. And I know that sounds strange, but if you don't try different things, you don't know if you don't like them. So I thought I would try watercoloring. I profess to you often that I am not an artist, which I am not. And I use my alcohol markers probably as my only artistic looking thing, because I do some shading and that kind of thing. So today I thought I'd really whack everybody out and go ahead and use a blender pen and do some stamping on actual watercolor paper. I do have another video with watercolor paper, but it's a much more general technique. I'll link that directly below as well. But I wanted this time to actually do some watercoloring by using a blender pen and my ink pads. So what I'm going to show you is called Peaceful Deer. Traditionally a Christmas set. I was looking to make something for fall, and I just got the new seasonal, if you will, or mini catalog, and there are some fall things in there, but I wanted to create one now, so I'll be doing other fall things later on as we get closer to fall. But in this case, instead of making it Christmassy, I'm not going to use a sentiment. I'll use a couple of the deer and some trees, and let's see what it comes out with, what it looks like. So I've used soft suede, and I've cut it at 4.5 by 11, scored at 5.5. We'll put that aside. And then this is part of the DSP that comes in the Regal set. It's the Cajun Craze color, and that is cut at 4 by 5.25. And then I'm using their Stampin' Up's watercolor paper, which is called Fluid 100. Comes in a 5 by 7 sheet. I did cut this to 3.5 by 4.25 so that I can get my layers. But I'm going to set these aside because this is what I'm going to be working on today. So we're going to do 3 different colors. We're going to use some soft suede, and we're going to use some mossy green, and we're going to throw in a little Cajun Craze to get I was looking for the reddish color that we'll do in the deer, but we're going to stamp the trees in Mossy Meadow, and then we're going to stamp the deer in soft suede. So we're not even using the Memento Black to get color. Now I'm actually using blocks, which is unusual for me. As you all know, if you visit me at all, I frequently just use my Stamparatus. But obviously for this kind of thing, it is better if you just go ahead, ink up your stamp. And this is kind of a forgiving technique, if you can believe it, but we're gonna start with a tree. And watercolor paper has a texture to it, so you would say, oh, it didn't stamp well. Not to worry. I will show you why this is a forgiving technique. And I want to ink it again, but I'm going to stamp off because I want a lighter version. And I'm going to put the lighter version slightly to the top. Again, this is like one of those, it's not distinctive, but it mimics it where it's not perfect. With the Stamparatus, I could get that to be 100% solid, even though you can see a little texture up here. But we're not going to do that because when I use the blender pen, all will be forgiven. So I am going to go ahead now and use some of the smaller trees, making them look like they're further back by elevating them, even though they're smaller. doing the same thing. It didn't come out perfect again with my Stamparatus. I could get it to be perfect. The reason I restamp before I stamp off is because I want to make sure I have stamp ink everywhere on, and it didn't come off like it did unevenly here. I didn't necessarily want to repeat that over here, but don't worry, we're going to make this look good. All right, so my trees are done. There's nothing else that I made green, so I'm going to go ahead and close that up. Now there's a little stamp that makes it look like a line, either grass or, you know, branches or dirt or whatever you want to call it, but it essentially gives you a base to make it look like there's a section there. And I'm going to do 2 of those, one of them going off the paper a little bit. Then I'm going to stamp my big deer. And again, because I don't want them looking Christmassy or anything, I am not, I'm trying to figure out where I want to put this exactly. Kind of right here. And even these, if they didn't stamp perfectly, which it did, but if it didn't, that can also be fixed. And then I want my little deer kind of laying down in this section right here. And there is the stamping section of this particular card. I'm gonna leave these all here. I'm gonna leave my soft suede open, but as you can see here, I've made it into a palette. How do you do that? You take your stamp pad, squish it a little, and then when you open it up, you get ink on, no, I want it to be out. There we go. Ink on the palette, if you will. I'm using it as a palette. So there's a couple of things. You don't have to have a whole bunch of these because even though, even here, you can see the red's not coming off because I've cleared it. So there's just clear fluid in here. It's magic fluid. I don't know exactly what it is. But we're going to start on the trees. I'm going to start, you know, tree branches go this way, if you will, if I'm doing it on the line. So I'm going to kind of color that way too. So as you can see, it lightens up the color. It changes. I'm not going right to the edge. I'm simply making the ink blend a little bit more. I'll show it to you up close in a minute so you can kind of see what I'm doing. As you can see, I'm not really coloring carefully or in detail. I'm kind of just bringing some more of the ink down here. I'll decide later if I want more ink down here. I can get ink from my ink pad. But as you can see, that area, oops, this light isn't good. That area is now more fully covered. I'm going to do the same thing over here, again, in the direction up the center where the bait or the center tree limb would be, kind of making it fall into that. It does lighten it up. It changes the color a little bit. So you might want to scrap piece before you actually start this. And then I'm going to just make, I'm actually grabbing the ink from where I stamped, because you remember these ink pads are watercolor are water based. And so that means that I can pull color from them. And I'm going to do very quickly the same thing on this card. I'm not trying to be real pretty. Although I'm not an artist, this looks kind of artistic. This one, again, didn't blend. I probably didn't pull it hard enough at the bottom. And at the end, I will decide if I need to bring in just a little bit more of the green here. But for now, we're just going to do this. All right. Now, I'm going to clear it just by doing this. There's no more green ink on it. So we're going to start off. This is a rather dark ink, and I don't want him too dark. So I'm going to take some of the color and bring it over here and mix it around, because I don't want a harsh line when I first start. So that's a good starting color. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring some of the color up along his back and then pull down the color. And this is watercolor paper, so it takes, it allows the shading with the multiple repeat color over him. And then I want lighter, so I'm going to pull in some more of the lighter color. And I can also steal some color just from the ink that I stamped with, because remember we used a soft suede ink. So I'm kind of using that to blend in. And I can always pick up some more color. And it's not, I'm not doing anything perfectly right now because there's time to blend it in a little bit. Because I want to add a little bit of red to it. Not red, but the Cajun Craze color to bring out our DSP color that we're putting in there. Going up into his little ears. This little baby's tired, so he's laying down. Not where I live now, but when I used to live outside of Cincinnati, we lived kind of up in the Kings Island area, and there's a lot of farmland and woods out there, and we used to have deer in our backyard all the time, like whole families of them. We had a lot of evergreens and pine trees and that kind of thing, and they loved to lay underneath there. It was soft and warm, and they would eat pine cones or chew on them or something. I don't know what their habits are, but anyway, I don't know if they were actually eating the pine cones or if they were just chewing. I'm not sure. But they sure liked our backyard. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for right now on this. I'm going to clear the brush again, which doesn't take much. I'm going to open up my Cajun Craze. Now, as you can see, Cajun Craze is really kind of a reddish color. But when you pull that ink down, you'll notice the further away from the color I get, the less dark it is. And so now I'm just adding a bit of red-ish, Cajun cage-ish, orange-ish. I don't know what color you want to call it, but I'm just adding a little bit of color that will come out when we put it up against the Cajun Craze paper. It will look so fine. And if you feel like you need to blend more, and you feel like you might be blending too much, even though it is watercolor paper, just let it dry a little bit in between, and then you can go at it again. The fibers are really strong. I don't want a lot on my little guy here. Just a little color. Maybe a little bit in his chest. And I'm trying to bring it in. All right. Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Okay, not much more damage I can do to that. I think I make his little face a little bit darker. All right, that's good. All right, now I want more green. I'm going to go ahead and close these up. I'm going to bring back my Mossy Meadow. Couldn't remember which one I used. I'm going to clear the brush because I do have brown on it, but these are stamped brown, but I want a little bit of green. So again, the further I pull away, the lighter it gets, and I want more of the light color. And I'm actually going to run it over the brown so that I'm pulling both colors. I've got some green and some brown. And believe me, I know that this is not super artistic. And I guess I'm sharing it because in the end, I think it's good enough, if you will. I'm not super, you know, horrified by what I came out with. It's okay. And it's good enough for me to send to somebody and let them say, oh, look, she tried watercoloring. And I'm just trying to make to take away some of the whiteness of the paper without actually coloring the whole thing. And I'm just letting it fade to green there. I'll do a little bit more up in here. Let me take a look at that and see what I think. Yeah, I'm okay with that. All right, so there's my Blender Pen 101. Blender pens also work with our watercolor pencils, which I might try again. I did several videos about coloring techniques. I have one for alcohol markers. I've got one for the colored pencils. I got one using the ink. So if you want more about tips and tricks about doing that, but the Blender pen is really a pretty handy tool for lots of coloring, ways of coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and put that away. I did want to tie a bow with some twine, and I had already tied a bow, and rather than waste your time and trying to, you have to fiddle with when you make bows, you have to do a little bit of fiddling. And so rather than take up the time again for this video for fiddling with bows, I'm just gonna pull this on from another card that I just wrapped this around. And then we'll pull this tight. Actually, I'm gonna have to undo it because it's way too loose. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use my third hand, if I can find it. I'm really excited. Stampin' Up! Has a new thing in their catalog, which you should be able to see by now because I'm posting this in August. It has an embossing buddy, which is used for embossing to take away any oils that make the embossing powder stick, and a tray and a set of tweezers. So it's really cool. And I hate tying bows online while you're watching because I'm not as good at it with twine as some of the others. But anyway, let me, as one of my favorite people in the stamping world says, zhuzh this. Let me find the end. Okay, come on, I need the bow. There we go. Here it is. All right, so we're gonna pull this down. We're gonna pull this down. I'm gonna tighten it. There we go. There. And if you have trouble with it after you've made it, if it's moving around too much and you don't want it to move anymore, you can put, I'm just yanking it because I want it a little bit further over. You can always put a glue dot behind it and that will make it stop moving. But I'm okay with that. So I'll put this away. Anyway, so great things in our new catalog. Just haven't gotten my order in yet. I'm going to go ahead and glue this. And because it's watercolor paper and it has texture, I'm putting more glue on than I do with normal cardstock. And that's, again, because it is textured, bumpy. Think of it as bumpy. It's not really bumpy, but there are hills and valleys in the texture of the paper. So what I'm going to also do after I do this, and then I will just put the normal amount of glue on this, I will get this on the card. Oops. Get that straight. That's always good. There we go. And then I'm going to use one of my other favorite tools that is made for stamping that I never use for stamping. I'm I'm just going to lay that down there while I kind of clean up my mess here. I will have all of the tools and this cuts, or how to cut the paper, etc. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it will be on my blog, which I will have a link posted below. So just a second or two with this. This gives us our card. Kind of fallish. You know, when I see deer, I think of hunting season, which is horrible, but that's just the way the mind goes. You know, I was brought up in the country, so hunting is a thing. But so anyway, this is my first version of a fall card. There will be, you know, the typical leaves and other things coming up in a little later post. Thanks very much for stopping by. I appreciate it so much. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. I usually post once a week. Again, if you want a catalog, you can email me at jandufour@yahoo.com. Thanks. Bye.